Hello, folks. My name is Anthony Kerrigan. This is the GhostÉire Channel, and tonight we're going to be talking to paranormal researcher and investigator PJ O'Sullivan from Púca Vogue Paranormal Investigations. The themes for tonight are Myrtle's plantation in Louisiana, United States, also the historical figure Daniel O'Connell, and also at the end, Redwood Castle, situated in County Tipperary. Now, if you have any questions for PJ, feel free to put them forward on this live feed. You can also go to our website, www.ghostére.net, go to the contact page, fill in the blanks. If you have a private message, just put in brackets, private message. If you're affiliated with any paranormal group or tourist attraction, feel free to name the team or the organization, just put it in brackets, and we'll also give a shout out to you as well. We are coming live from here, but also our website, www.ghostére.net. If you press the red button on the home page, the GhostÉire channel, that will bring you to the live stream, and you can also watch past shows and see what's coming up on the future on that site. And as it's coming up, gearing towards Halloween, folks, we're doubling the chances that you have a chance to get into our Halloween mega draws, which is taking place on Wednesday the 30th of October for the Halloween extravaganza 4. We're doubling your chances, but with that you have to comment on the show like Jennifer's done. We have a few technical issues there earlier, so she's just saying it's all good, but comment on the show and you'll have a chance to enter a draw. Well done, Jonathan. Jonathan says hi from County Fermanagh. How are you doing, Jonathan? Hope you're keeping well. So that's it, folks, there. So I'm going to talk to PJ now. How are you doing, PJ?
Hello, Anthony. Thanks for having me on.
It's excellent to have you on there. PJ, can you tell us first what got you interested in the paranormal?
Well, I suppose for me, I think it's like everything. I think if you were to ask any paranormal researcher the same question, it's always something from their youth. So, like, I remember when I was quite young, myself and a friend were staying in a location, and all of a sudden, both woke up in the middle of the night. Now, where we were staying, somebody passed. And of course, I being me and lazy, I slept in the bed. I was kind of going, listen, it's a bed, I'll take it. And my friend was on the ground. But next thing about some hour of the night, we both woke up at exactly the same time. Now, it was a second floor. There was nothing outside the window, but yet it was like somebody ran across the bottom of the room. And it was just like a translucent shaped figure of a body of a man.
Okay.
And I said to my friend, I said, did you see? And he said, what I saw. And I said, a see-through. And he said, man. So we actually both finished each other's sentence at the same time.
That's good.
So here we are kind of going, did this just happen? So that was kind of one of the first things. And you know the way when you're young, things happen and you put them to the back of your mind, you move on, life evolves. But yet it never left the back of my mind. And the second thing was, we're obviously from a farming background. And we were cutting silage on a location near where I live. And there was a little old cottage on the land. And there was a group of people there. Now, back then, those cottages only had one door in, one door out. There was no back door. We'd been inside in what was their bedroom. There was, clothing and things around the room. We were all outside then as kids. We were playing. We all heard the bang. We went back in and everything had kind of moved. And there was like even a wig that had fallen off. And it was just eerie because nobody was inside. There was nobody there. And it was too much for it to be like a draft. But there were two things that stood with me. And then years later, I seen an ad about ghost hunting, and I was like, yeah, this is it. And the rest is history.
The rest is history there. We're just going to go to a few shout outs there as well. Eugene from Afterlife Paranormal. Hi, Eugene. The
Hello,
fall is
Eugene.
coming. How you doing? Halloween. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Bridget Burke from Seekers of the Afterlife. Hi, Bridget.
Hello, everyone.
Jonathan says, yeah, all well, thanks. Joanne from Seekers of the Afterlife. Hi, Joanne. How you doing? Hi, Agnes there. How you doing? Hope you're keeping well. Yeah, so we're going to touch on an interesting place there. I think I've heard of this before. Well, obviously, you've been there, PJ, there, so this is where I probably first heard it. But it's the Myrtle's plantation. The first question you've got to ask there, what brought your attention to the Myrtle's plantation first? Out of all the places in America, why there?
Well, I suppose it was two things. It's funny how how you see something and it sticks with you again like that. Would you believe it was actually a TV show by Ghost Hunters around early 2000s, and
Okay.
they'd done the Myrtles, and it caught my attention. And years later, I was actually going out to Mardi Gras, and I went, hang on a minute. If I hire a car and go up for about an hour, I can actually get a night here.
You weren't doing
So the,
anything naughty at Mardi Gras, were
come here, sure. You always have to be bad. You can't be good all the time.
you? No.
So my friends were like, not a hope in hell are we going out there. So I contacted the property, and I booked the Rough and Sterling room. Now I made my booking, hired a car, left my friends, head off. It was a good hour out, but you know what? It was a fantastic thing to do because I got a bit stressed with the driving on the other side of the road,
Oh, yes.
and I pulled over. I was like, I need a smoke, and of course, you can't smoke in the rentals. And I actually ended up in an abandoned town,
All
and it
right.
was like one of the most amazing things I've seen. Like they had, like the porch of who lived here, who sat in the porch, the local church, did all these things. And at the same time, I was conscious of I need to get to the Myrtles. But as luck would have it, and I always say road trips are great. So here I was going along in my little rental, and it was a small car for a big man. But by the time I got there, I was only around the corner. I was only 10 minutes away. So driving up into the Myrtles, it is so deceiving. Like you're going through the big entry posts. They have two big entry posts as you enter, and they have the whole sign outside the Myrtles.
Right.
And I won't lie, the excitement. You know when you get that excitement inside you of I'm actually here. I'm going to be here for the night.
Yeah.
And you're driving up the drive, and it looks, we'll say, typical American, like something out of a movie. And next thing, all of a sudden, you see this glimmer of like a white house with a dark roof, timber fencing around it, the green hedging the whole way around, and you just get that feeling of this is just so different.
Hmm.
So I parked up my car. That was fine. Next thing they told me, there was I was just met it for the last tour. So I met this lady dressed in all her finery for back in the day, and she gave us the house tour.
Hmm.
And it was only until after the tour, because when you go in the door, there's actually you go in through these big brown doors full of glass, and when you go in, on your left is a big, massive, like an entry table with a big, huge mirror above it. And
Right.
there's a big chandelier hanging above you. It's got the old wood floors. It has the big old carpet on the ground. You can nearly even like smell the history, if that makes sense. You can nearly
Yeah.
even smell it as you're standing there. And the first thing she pointed out was the mirror, because she was saying that back in the day, as we both, well, I grew up with this pishog as well of you always covered the mirror, on death you stop the clocks.
Hmm.
And they were saying that the mirror had never been covered that night, and that they claim handprints come through on the mirror.
Right.
And that is they claim true. There's so many stories with the Myrtles. It's hard to keep
That's
up
to
with it
do with
all.
previous owners, isn't it? They and their family. I forget what her name is. It's one of the
Yeah, it
owners
was
there.
one.
Their
It was
children.
yeah. It was one of the Woodruffs. One of the
Y-
Woodruffs. I think it was there was
Yeah.
Sarah Woodruff, and there was the two children.
Yeah.
And they claimed because they weren't covered that night that the souls got captured in the mirror.
Hmm.
And this mirror is become one of their main attractions, of course, as you enter the house. So they ask everyone to take their photos. Now, I didn't get anything in it, only a bad reflection. It's hard enough to see myself in the morning, not to mind to see
No.
myself all the time. But no, like it's still the way the tour was done with her dressed in character, and then you going in and experiencing the house where you can feel the wooden floors creak underneath you. You can feel the history. You can
Yeah.
smell the oldness inside there,
Yeah.
and it just added to it. So they continued with the tour through each room, telling you the history and the stories. And it's interesting because even when you Google it, there's so many discrepancies in people on the stories.
Hmm.
But the one thing is, like before I got there, I had watched other paranormal groups that had been there through TV show and things, and I was like, let's. It was just excitement of being there, I suppose, really more so than anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Go ahead, PJ. There. I've just got to add there. Like, do
yeah,
you stay the night there? Is that true? Yeah.
I, that's what
Yeah.
I was just going to say. So, like as I say, I had the room booked, and originally when I made the booking, I thought maybe I could convince my friends to come, but no, it wasn't happening. So I was staying in the room on my own. But
Hmm.
when I got there, I was actually informed I was the only guest in the house for the night.
Oh no, that is
Yes.
great.
And
As a ghost
here I
hunter.
am with my tripod, my camera, my K2, and my dictaphone, because obviously I'm traveling light because I've been on holiday. But and next thing they go, you're the guest for the night. And I was like, because I'd read about the caretaker and the caretaker's cottage, and I was like, where's the caretaker? They were like, doesn't sleep in the house, sleeps in the grounds. So I was like,
All right.
okay, I've got this big old house for myself for the night.
That's
And like
fine.
there was different rooms, because since I've been there, there's been a fire. So I know there's been changes made.
Hmm.
There was a fire a couple of years back. So I know there has been changes, there has been additions. But when I was there, it was prior to the fire.
Hmm.
So you go up the rickety stairs, and when you go up the stairs, there was two rooms on the left. The Rough and Sterling was the second one down, but they had all the doors open, and they said to me, "You can actually pick any room you want."
Oh wow.
So of course you're going to have a nosy. Who doesn't want to have a nosy around the Myrtles?
Have a nosy first. You have to
Yeah,
decide
and
which one to pick.
you're kind of going, when these people are gone, I'm going to be all over this place. You know? So there I was, hard man on my own, going around. But I went into this one room. Oh my God, it was called, I think it was called the doll room at the time. Do you ever walk into a room and there are so many dolls and all the eyes are just facing you?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, no, definitely won't be staying in this one. So back over to my Rough and Sterling room. But even when I went into it, there was air conditioning on, and the air conditioning was quite loud. And you see,
Hmm.
of course, that's always hard when it comes to, do you know the way we get the cold spots, or we get that feeling, or
Yes.
the temperature drops?
Yeah.
So, of course, that was something I was kind of going, okay, well, look, we are out here. It is warm, it is hot, the air conditioning is
Yeah.
on. It's something I'm going to have to be aware of from sound in the background, because what I
Hmm.
decided to do was I decided to do a couple of sessions myself by the table. And then I said I would go around the house, went down towards the porch area, because there was a photograph taken downstairs. Because downstairs, when you're looking, we'll say internally coming away from the main house, there's like a couple of rocking chairs on the porch.
Right.
And they have photographs of what people claim to be either Chloe or a child peeping out around the corner. So I was like, okay, I've got plenty of scope here for the night, you know? But I suppose the biggest part was, even in that room, there was a giant four-poster bed. And I had to laugh because I've short legs. I had to make a bit of a run and a jump to get on the bed.
I felt that with some beds as well in America. Anyway, they're massive, like you know.
Yeah, you have to give it bit of an all run and a jump. But like I will say, like, throughout the night, like, okay, temperature I couldn't rely
Mm,
on because of course the air conditioning.
yes.
But I have to say, as the night continued, while I was there, I could hear walking coming up the stairs, but yet I was the only person in the building.
Mm,
And I even went out and looked, and there was nobody there, just to confirm that somebody hadn't come in or so forth, because I was to be locking the door behind me again.
right.
Then, in the rooms across the way, it was like you could hear lighter feet running, like children's feet.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. I was like, but there's no children here. But yet, I wasn't getting much activity or response. And I was aware, of course, that this unit was going on behind me, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So I continued on throughout the night. Like, I heard the steps, the footsteps coming up the stairs. It was like light feet, like children's light feet. And you know, when you run in either your socks or bare feet, it's a different sound to shoes.
Yes. Yes. You can hear yeah. You can hear the soles. The shoes are kind
Correct.
of supported, but you can hear the louder with the more precise the sound.
Correct. You can hear like the thud of the feet on the ground.
Mm,
And it was like running and racing. But yet, as I say, like, now my equipment was limited, of course, because of the situation I was in. But all these personal experiences were happening. And then I was kind of going, okay, how I only have one camera. How am I going to capture this? But lo and behold, I was still not getting it.
mm,
So as the investigation went on, I went, okay, so I've tried the main porch downstairs. That felt flat, if I'm being honest with you. That part of the area felt flat. The stairs is where you could feel the movement up and down, and on the landing and in the rooms around me, I could hear like the chasing. And it's
mm.
interesting because since then, after researching back, apparently that area used to be called like the children's nursery.
Okay.
And even today, because funny enough, you know, we were coming on the show tonight, and I went, you know, I haven't even looked at this in a while. And I did some more Googling again today, back to the building. And there's been more reports, and they actually call it like the children's nursery, that area, that a common phenomena is children.
Right.
And that makes a lot of sense because when I did decide to bed down, so I decided to bed down for the night, I left the camera rolling for the night. Now, I won't lie to you, I woke up with a fright during the night. Now, I was in this four-poster bed, probably snoring away happy out.
Yeah.
And next thing, the only way I can explain it to you is it was like somebody was in the bed with me.
Right. Yeah.
And do you ever wake up, get your hand, and just smack your hand down on the bed?
Yeah.
And I kept smacking it because I was like, is it a snake? Is it a person?
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah.
You know? And I started smacking and everything, and there's nobody there. And then I went, okay, it's obviously just my mind, sleep. The interesting thing is when I actually watched back my footage from that night, around the same time there was coloured lights as in pin, like just like pin lights.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they went from over my shoes, which were at the end of the bed on top of like a box, and they were even on the bed beside where I'd started smacking earlier.
Yeah.
So I was
Okay.
like, okay, is that a coincidence? Is it something tying in? But what I didn't know was about to come was I reckon it was about, I was trying to work out the timings because my cameras aren't time stamped. And I
Mm.
reckon it was around four-ish. But
Okay.
there's actually a girl's voice in the background, and I have the clip. I think it's up on the website, and she just goes 1, 2.
Oh wow. Oh
Now
God.
there was nobody whatsoever in that building with me that night.
Mm.
Second of all, of course, I'm an adult, not a child.
Mm. True.
Third, I'm happy out snoring away, happy out in my pit.
Yeah.
And here's this child's voice going 1, 2, just, and it's in that tone, just counting in the background.
Yeah.
So morning time came, packed up. I was going down for breakfast and I met lovely staff and they were, oh, we didn't realize there was anybody booked in last night. And I said, yeah, I stayed last night. And she goes, anyone that stays, we usually tell you, set your alarms from 3 o'clock because they believe that Chloe is often around 3 o'clock.
I'm going to touch. I'm just going to come to a few questions because we're going to talk. I'm going to ask
Yeah.
about Chloe there soon. There, Jonathan wants to know though first, how old is the building?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I think it's late 1700s, and then very late 1700s, and then I think it would have come around
It was
late.
around the 17s because I think was there
Yeah.
5 sets of owners before, or were they the fifth set of owners, the Woodruffs? And of course, it had also been taken over as well for the war as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it would have been coming up towards the War of Independence there. That changed everything there. The slavery
Correct.
there. I think it's late 1700s or very early 1800s. Or I would
Yeah,
say yeah.
I will, if like it's definitely after the mid 1700s.
Hmm. Carol Daly, how you doing, Carol? I hope you're at a gravesite today, up tonight there, But if it is, it's great. Yeah, it's lovely going around gravesites there. Carol Daly's from Grave. If you just pop it again, I think it's Grave Visitations, or I think it is
Ah,
there. Joanne, how you doing, Joanne? The whole place to yourself.
yeah, I had the whole place was to myself. The caretaker was on the grounds in what they call the caretaker's cottage.
Okay.
So I had all upstairs because the rooms were open around me upstairs on the landing. The stairs down now they had closed off. We'll say the main area where they claimed there was a shooting long ago. That part was closed off for the side. The main entry hall, the
Mm.
stairs up, the second floor, and I had full access into the porch and outside areas.
Yeah, Bridget says that would be that would be great. How lucky you were. And
Absolutely.
Joanne says the dolls creep me. Bridget loves them.
I agree with you, Joanne. When you're in a room looking and all you can see is those eyes looking back at you. I felt it.
Eugene says love spooky doll. Joanne says, did you get any? That's probably we're going to touch on that. Brian says, hi guys, hi Brian from Belfast Paranormal Investigations. Grave Visitations. I think that's Cathole's site there on YouTube. Check it out and subscribe there, folks. Eva from Púca Vogue. Hi, Eva. I wouldn't have slept even with the people on both sides of me.
Trust Eva to come on.
Hi, Nicola from Third Eye Adventurers. How you doing, Nicola? Hope you're keeping well. Yeah, so going back to Joanne's question, she said, "Did you get any negative vibes?" Now there is. I'll ask you. I'll put that forward to you there first, PJ.
So did I get any negative vibes? Is it?
Hmm.
No. To be fair, I didn't get negative. What I got was, because of always say the activity of the footsteps and the running around, it actually felt very playful, very
Hmm.
light upstairs. But downstairs, because I decided to go for a walk around the actual outside of the house. So we'll say, if you were looking at the house straight on, you can go down to the side, over and back. Now, the more I ventured over towards the back of the house outside, yeah, then I did. It changed. It felt very, not just because it was nighttime, but it just felt very eerie, very off, very dark back
Hmm.
there. Inside the house, very playful upstairs. But the more you went around the perimeter of the house, it's like, we'll say, on the right hand side, down towards the side and at the back, it was like a totally different energy. But then some people do claim as well that there's an Indian burial ground underneath the house. I don't know if that's just legend or not. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Now I'm going to touch on more of the ghost there and all that, because I'm going to ask you a couple more questions that would be kind of interesting there. You mentioned the fan being on, so you talked that as a great investigator, like you knew that sound audio would probably be inhibited during the investigation with
Correct.
the air conditioning there. Was there anything else that you had to take into consideration, like uh, with that? How different was it to investigate there compared to the usual places in Ireland?
It was actually quite easier in a way. Like, I always find the most common thing, I suppose, that we capture would be EVP, especially because with our cameras recording and the style of cameras. But with the air conditioning on, for me, it's a risk because it is noisy and you could lose EVP at the back of it.
Mm.
But the other side of it is where you're in a building where we'll say if you're, excuse me, if you're in a castle and there's air coming through the windows, you have to watch for doors rattling, doors banging, the sound of wind. So because of the temperature of the weather it was, the time of year, I had none of those issues. Because the house was empty, I didn't have to worry about contamination from anybody else. To the point as I say, when I heard the footsteps several times, I went out and checked just to be sure, because you don't know if someone can just lob up on, you know. But from an investigation point of view, the only hardest part that I had to watch for was the air conditioning unit.
Mm. Bethany says, this is a good question there, before I touch on the last one. Did you go back to sleep after you heard the child counting? I would have been out the door, she says there. I know there's been a hypnopompic and hypocognic state where you're in between after sleep and before sleep. But
I
did you,
I
was
did
there?
indeed. I did indeed. I always say I fear the living more than the dead.
Mm,
So no, I was. Now, in saying that, I didn't go into deep sleep, because even when I left the next morning and joined my friends, I was exhausted, because I think you're always, it's like a dog. You're keeping one ear open.
mm, mm,
You're asleep, but you're not fully gone to sleep. And then you're always just waiting, just in case there's that one piece. And that's why, even with that, I always leave a camera recording all the way through the night, just
mm,
to capture something that you could miss. But I
mm,
like, I will say, like, it's very rare hops I've got down through the years, and I can still remember that night banging the quilt, like I just didn't know. So the pin lights were interesting, and there's something I've only ever seen a few times. I've often wondered, is it technology, is cameras, what is it? But it was interesting that they tied in at the same time.
mm. The other question I've got to quickly before we go to Joanne's then. Did you think, I'll go to Joanne's first. Did you think the little girl's activity, like a video playing over and over, or do you think she is trying to communicate? So do you reckon it was residual or intelligent?
I
Um,
think residual, because the way I would look at it is, if you've got somebody kind of going 1, 2, they're playing. So I would be on the element of residual, but in saying that, they could have been trying to get attention to interact as well.
hmm. And the question I'm going to ask then, because we were talking about Chloe. Chloe was the supposed to be Native American woman, an indigenous woman that's supposed to haunt the location, and Chloe as well. She's the lady. I'll probably come to you that describe her there, PJ, first. But secondly, how important are these places to be kept open? I know there's a lot of plantation with slavery, and we've got a location, you know yourself, St. Finian's, which was an asylum here in Killarney. How
Yeah,
important, when it's not opened at all, it's in
no.
deterioration. How important is these buildings to be kept, the history alive, well known, and is it? Can you explain about Chloe?
Like coming to the buildings first anyway, like absolutely, like these buildings are part of history. And I know we live in a world where you have to be careful in what you say, but you can't rewrite history to a degree. And these buildings are definitely part of history. They're part of the past. I firmly believe they should be kept, they should be maintained. Obviously, with sadness comes a lot of these buildings, and you have to be respectful and mindful of people's families, generations on. But I think that's why, as a paranormal investigator, when you are entering a location like this, you have to be mindful of respect, but at the same time, doing what we're there to do, as in paranormal research. But 110%, I always say, that's why we should be supporting all our castles around the country. Do you remember the roof tax? We lost so many castles, fantastic buildings through the
Mm,
roof tax.
yeah.
Like there's a big massive castle outside Limerick there that's only held up with no roof in it. It's held up only by structure inside. So we're losing so much history, all
Mm,
because of back then greed. And I do think, yeah, like it's part of our past, it's part of our heritage. Sometimes we have to take the good, the bad, and the ugly, but we can be respectful with it. But they're massively important to our heritage. And when you do go around the world and you see buildings that have been kept, and it's certainly, like, I see the Myrtles there, like they've embraced it as a, like they've embraced it, we'll say, both for accommodation, for
mm,
day tours, a
mm.
restaurant, but they're keeping something alive.
True. Yes. It's the history that I wouldn't have known anything much about it there, but I did was looking it up there, and thank you there, PJ. As you said, St. Finian's is in Killarney there as well.
Right.
It's a place that needs millions apparently to redo, but it could be something like a national network museum for mental awareness or something like that. A museum where people,
Correct.
and it'd be tourism as well, and people could be housed in one section of it as well.
It's
Um,
like I just, as you know, I just came back from Route 66, and I came across a prison out there, huge. I haven't posted it yet. I'm still only getting to grips, which was only back a bare week. But there was this one prison that was so large, had so many different people, so much. Like, we even met somebody that had been in the prison, and he was a fair age. But to walk the cells, the paint is rippling off, we'll say, at the ceilings and the walls. You can hear the bang of the metal still, but yet it's embraced, it's open, it's there. And the amount of money as well that's coming in, it might be huge money, but it's everything is helping to keep it open and restore small parts bit by bit by bit.
Can you touch on it quickly about Chloe then? Sorry, now Chloe
Yes.
as well.
So, and Chloe's a funny one, because even out there they were describing her, we'll say, as child, and then when you go reading back, some say slave. So there seems to be a lot of discrepancy, we'll say, on the age, and even the image they have of the child peeping around the corner could take a stab at about 14-year-old, give or take.
Mm,
But like when we were doing the tour, they were saying that Chloe was caught listening at the door, that she was listening to a conversation that she shouldn't have been listening to. There was events happening in the house. So to teach her a lesson, they cut off her ear, and that's
right.
how she was disciplined with it. And of course, then you're coming up with the theory that she was placed, we'll say, to the side. And this is the funny thing, like some say that she was placed to the side and there was a maid getting more favor, whereas some people say it was Chloe. But they claimed then that she tried to poison, I think it was Sarah, the mother, and the two children, but not to kill him. The whole idea was to be able to heal him, so that she now would become, like, we'll say, the hero instinct,
Mm,
and be brought back into favor in the house.
yes.
But what actually happened then, they claim, of course, is that there was death. And that's then where there's discrepancies between the maid and between Chloe, but they say that she was murdered and the body was thrown into the Mississippi River. Mississippi River. And again, tongue tied on that one.
Mm. I know it's a tough one there, but it is yeah, something I know you need to do that to survive back then. Try and get yourself up the ranks there. It would it's tough. It was very bad.
It is,
Um,
because like they claim that there was so many fights, that, like, they claim that there was one person, one army man shot in the middle of the dining room, so that he was shot. And then there's another claim of a murder where they say the blood is still in the ground inside the front door. So they pinpoint these areas out to you as you go through the tour. Now they've kept the house more or less in design wise of what it was like back in the day as a plantation house, to see the finery and the difference between people at the time, do you know? But like there, I think it was a 5 murders in total, but they were saying like the biggest one was that they roll up in a horse. We'll say it was a long dining area with doors that open at the end, and
Okay.
that he dismounted, walked in, got the gun, and just shot him point blank in the dining room, and that was one of the murders that they claim is still being haunting, part of the hauntings there today. So the
Yeah.
Myrtles is a funny one because there's so many legends, stories, but the most common seem to be around, we'll say, the Woodruffs, Chloe, the maid, the poisoning. That all seems to be the main thing. And of course, then you have the strong claims as well of the house being Indian land underneath on the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot to be taken into consideration. You probably just a yes or no question, probably for this, if you can, there, PJ. Was it a place you invest? Was it the best place you investigated, or is your favourite? Or is there another place?
Um, it would probably rank up there in my top three. I'll
Hmm.
put it this way too. If I got another opportunity to go back, absolutely.
And Eugene says we can only learn by history. That is true there, Eugene. So
Correct.
we're going to move on to Daniel O'Connell soon there. So I hope you haven't got your history books out, and this is a very interesting talk there.
Well, this is where I'll fail anyway. This is where I'll fail.
We'll try your best. We'll try your best there. Maybe the listeners can tell us there. That's up to yourselves there, the viewers there. But first of all, viewers there, I'm going to draw out. PJ's going to be in it as well as an opportunity to see where the passive monk, which doorway is going to come out of the church, which colour doorway. But I'm just going to draw two of you, and there's going to be one reserved. So here we go. First up, Joanne, you're in there. You're going to be having a chance again. Nice one, Joanne. Maybe, I think, I don't know, was it 50th time lucky? I don't know. so, Joanne, we're going to pick one more as well. We're going to be Eva Walsh. Oh, that's
uh,
PJ's teammate. Ah, and we'll
disqualified.
put
Disqualified,
qualified,
Eva.
disqualified, and Agnes, as well. Agnes as well. We're going to come to you there. Stay tuned after the Daniel O'Connell section now. I'm going to leave that up there just in case we're missing uh, a few there. Nobody else, none of the few ever come back there. So the next subject we're going to talk about is Daniel O'Connell. And can you tell us, PJ, what brought your attention to Daniel O'Connell? Was it school or through other people telling you or through books?
Well, again, it's coming back to youth now. Let's be fair about this. I'm a person from the middle of the bog. I did not get no big posh upbringing, schooling, or anything like that. We barely had trousers without holes in them. But it was a school tour. Like it was a school tour that we were brought on. We were brought down to Derrynane, to the beach, and to the house. So it was actually a school tour, is where we learned about Daniel O'Connell, and it is.
Okay.
I always say it's very interesting. It's like, when you're doing an investigation, you have people around the table and things come out that they've forgotten about for years.
Hmm.
And with that, with Daniel O'Connell, I remember being down there and I can remember seeing the big silverware on the giant big brown table. But the part that actually caught my attention the most was going around by the white walls of the chapel.
Okay.
So it is like you would imagine, like a magpie, you'd go towards the big finery, the shiny things. But it was actually the part near the chapel that caught me the most, and inside the chapel. And bearing in mind I was quite young at the time, but again, it was something as an interest that's just stood with me. And as I say, I'm the
Hmm.
farthest person from political you'll find. Do you know what I mean? I'm the farthest person from history you'll find. There's more F's in my homework than what there was B's and C's. Do you know? But yeah, it was more. We'll say that was the start off connection, and of course you learned then from there.
Hmm. And where was this again? Where's the chapel? Where was it based again?
So
There,
that was all down in Derrynane House.
Darren House. We'll mention Darren Allen House in there in a minute, in a bit there. I know he's also there's a location. Me and PJ were there November. Was it last November there? We can't disclose too much because it's something very interesting on a project we've got coming up there. But in Carasavine, there's the church
Yes,
there as well. That's associated with him. Is that correct?
correct. And you wouldn't be far off the track then from there as well. Just a bit of a back road, as they say.
And can you tell us a bit more about Daniel O'Connell? So what sparked your
So
awareness more of him?
I suppose if you look at Daniel O'Connell, he was somebody that obviously at a young age had intelligence, and he was showing it because, like, he didn't come from, say, a very privileged background, but I believe it was an uncle of his at the age of 15 sent him to France. And it was during his time in France, because that's where he got his education. My apologies, I can hear my dog coughing if you can hear it.
Yeah, okay.
The joys of animals. But he went to France. He was doing his education, and of course, he had seen some of the war back then as well out in France, the rebellion. And we at the time, of course, had no Catholic Irish people really representing us. So that's what lit the fire in his belly to educate, come back, and try to make changes. But he also tried to do it through a peaceful way. So what I liked was the fact that you had somebody who on their own merit went off, got educated, but in their mind was still thinking of that plan of how can I change or make my country better.
Yes.
They always say that some people say one person can change the world, but I think in history we've learned one person can, or even one act by one person every day can make a difference.
Yes. Yeah. And
Now that was deep.
yeah, that is deep. It's deep words there. You took time like doing that, like But as you said, he was a very a political activist there. He was for the
Right.
Irish, not just Irish and English cause in the Catholicism. There, he was trying to help people, wasn't it? That trying to get into these positions in authority there, like in the Westminster and that.
Because it was like the time of it was like the time of, like, we'll say, the penal laws, and of course there was the Catholics weren't allowed to sit as representatives like a politician. And that's what he was, because he did go for an election, I believe, but they
Yeah.
still wouldn't let him sit. I think it took nearly a year later.
I think he won the first one, and then the second one, I think a year later, they won unanimously. Nobody was up against him there. So yeah, I think that was it. I think it was.
And so, like, if you look at that, like, he tried to move it on from there, then to get us representation and move it on.
And can you tell us that going back to, we're going to talk about, he was involved in a duel, is that right?
That's right. Now, as I say, history isn't my forte, but and they do call me fishbowl, because I can forget quite quickly. But like, yeah, he was involved in the duel as well.
Yeah, and I think it was to do with he got he was involved in a duel. He wasn't the one that organised it. I think it was the other. His name was Astaire. I think his name was there. Astaire. Now I might be wrong there. But actually, I think his opponent took the first shot and missed. It was too short, and I think he took the shot. Then obviously he had to be dead there, and it penetrated just above the thigh there, and the gentleman, the other opponent, he died within 2 days. But I was going to say that what other places is Daniel O'Connell associated with in around there? He's buried in Glasnevin, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, he's buried in Glasnevin, and as I say, like, if you look at the house then down below, of course, that's the big one, because, and of course, he was in the church so many times down there as well, and there were things only learned, we'll say, years on. So, like, when you're looking at Daniel O'Connell, like, if you take in the Carsavine area, of course, you've got, we'll say, the local area, the house, you've even got the likes. If you think about the buildings going back, the Gaol, the courthouse, you look at those buildings in back in time. They were all on his doorstep. They were his community.
I think is it right there? The one in Carsavine is the only church in Ireland that's not named after a saint. It's the Daniel O'Connell Oratory. I think I may be right. People can correct me there. I think that's what. I'll just come to a few more questions before I touch on there a bit more about it there, PJ. Joanne says, I visited the house 23 years ago. So that's just before I was born. Couldn't touch anything. I was like, dude, God, not allowed to touch the red button. I haven't actually been inside there now. Is it worth going there, PJ?
Yeah, absolutely. And as well as that, then of course you've got the beaches in front as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So like you've got the house, you've got the history, you've got the grounds. Absolutely worth to visit. A good day trip.
Jonathan says, not into politics, would not have a clue about it. It was good in school. It's fascinating. He was known as a liberator, wasn't it? That he's otherwise known
Correct,
as
because it
well.
was the Catholic emancipation. Like that was the whole big fight for him. It was for one man to get us to be represented.
True, yes. And I think he died. I think it was just before. There would have been famines, many famines anyway. In between that time, I think he passed away as well in the 1850s or late 1840s.
Because he
Uh,
actually, I believe he was fighting in Parliament to get help for us at the time of the famine as well.
yeah, so he would have been then as well. So he's associated with like these number of buildings. Do you reckon he where would he be most, like, say if there was a spirit there, where would he be most frequent? Where would you reckon?
Well, I, I suppose it's like everything. It's where
Hmm,
you're at your happiest. Is it your home?
hmm. True, yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like they actually, a lot of people have said the church is one of the areas, but
yeah.
I've never been able to access it or be down there, so I can't say, and I don't know everything in the world. But like you would say, should it not be Parliament where he was passionate? But it
Hmm.
seems to be a lot of people then say the home, especially that church area.
Yeah, and he
But
could
it
also.
is, but you do get when you go in there, you do get that feeling. It's I know when you go into a church anyway, obviously you're going in, it's silent and you're feeling it. I always say in any location, in any investigation or any building, you just stop and let it breathe around you.
Hmm,
It's like, do you know when you're in investigation, you go into a room and you can just tell it's flat. There's
hmm.
nothing there. You just feel it's a dead zone at the moment.
True. It's a great point there as well. There, I know. I suppose as you could say, if it was anything traumatic, then you could say, I think the duel happened in Kildare. I think that's where it was just in the. I think I don't know if it's Selbridge somewhere around there that it happened. You know, it could relate to there. They could be haunting that spot because it was something that's life and death, obviously, as well. There,
And you see, I
Brett.
always say as well, like the other thing is, like I always laugh. I always say paranormal is everyone's, right? But you can't call it from one thing to another because it's like, for example, I investigated an area in Sligo.
Hmm,
Yet an American investigation team did a person connected with that area there at that castle investigated their house over on the state side, Mexico side. I captured the exact same noise and movement in Ireland as what they captured in the house over there.
wow. So it is.
And it was only one person was the connection, but you were talking a world apart, really.
Yeah.
So it does make it wonder. Or for example, like I did an investigation here in Kerry,
Hmm,
and this one sticks out to me a lot. And this is like again about spirit, as you say, where would somebody be their happiest, right? So I
hmm.
did an investigation, and we got a voice in one area, but then we got something in their living room area. Couldn't figure it out. We knew it was something, couldn't figure it out. I played it for the owner. And I can honestly say, sometimes, investigator, we don't always have the answers or we're not on top form. I forgot they weren't Irish.
All
When I
right.
played it for them, it was actually their language and they recognised the voice.
Okay.
And that was
Is,
countries apart.
it is where I suppose, you know, as you said, like there's no numerous hauntings of the same person apparently in different locations. You look at Anne Boleyn as well, you
Correct.
know. So who's to say we can't travel, a consciousness can't travel somewhere else in different alternative areas? Also, when we're alive, I suppose as well, by location, I suppose one notable person that did do that was Padre Pio. He's appeared in two places while he was alive. It's handy when picking up your doll. Maybe you'll get a job committing a crime. But anyway, you don't have to get out of bed. I'll let my other bit do that. Bethany says, passed through it but never stopped. I'll have to go back. Yeah, it's a beautiful place there.
Yeah,
Like Darren Ann is there, and it's yeah. There's a beach there, and there's a cemetery there as well, isn't there? And
correct.
sometimes it's locked off by the sea, isn't it? You can walk on it, and then the sea can cover it. That means surround it. Joanne says, "What item of equipment would you not investigate without?"
Dictaphone. Well, no, I would take that back. My camera, because my camera always captures the visual, and I use the older style. I use the old Sony Handycam with an IR light because it's so fantastic to pick up EVP.
Hmm.
So for me, that would cover my basis of visual and audio.
Hmm. And I was really going to touch on there. So we've got to touch on to the next subject there, which is going to be Redwood Castle. I know a few questions there. Agnes says, "What have I done?" Johan says, "Maybe this time." This is the competition there. You're in a chance to win. Put your name in the draw for our competition, a Halloween mega draw. And Agnes says, "What did I do?" What I picked for there. You don't. We'll see now. They might be picked for something else now, Agnes. There we see. Yes. There. So I'm going to ask PJ first. There. This is the passive monk, and you have to guess what doorway he's in. So I'll just get rid of Daniel there. Sorry, Daniel. And so you have a choice there, PJ, and Joanne and Eva, you have a choice there. So if you're there, Eva and Joanne, pick a color, either red, blue, amber, or red, blue, green, or orange. Which one do you want to go for, PJ?
I'll go for orange.
Orange. Okay. I think Eva's gone for blue. Someone's got to get this there, and we'll give Joanne a second. Joanne's picked blue as well. Like, okay. Agnes has come up with this question here. Okay, Agnes. She says was already invested in life, now more interested. I know. Okay. So I know, Agnes. I'll leave it up to you, PJ. Should we put her name in the hat?
Whose name?
Agnes.
Absolutely.
Okay, you're
Absolutely.
going Agnes. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right there. Agnes. If you just pick a color, red, blue, green, or orange, one of those colors, and you have a chance. It's not at the end of the show, so you have to stay good. You have to stay on to find out if you're in it. So
Best
just
of
pick
luck,
one of those
Agnes.
colors. Just pick one of those colors. If you're going green, okay, we've got a different color. It might help. Okay. So we're going to go and touch on the last subject of the day, which is a castle in Tipperary, which PJ is very familiar with, and it's Redwood Castle.
We're so familiar with it now. We say it's like going home.
You're going home.
Yeah,
You're
that's
lucky.
nearly how familiar we are with it.
Are you actually there now?
Couple of weeks ago, we're there for 2 nights at Halloween.
That's it. I was going to say so. But first of all, I'm going to ask you then. When did you first visit the castle? Then.
I suppose my first time in Redwood would be, I suppose, the guts of maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? I suppose the guts of 10, we'll say you like we're going non-stop with the last, I suppose, 3 to 4, take out the COVIDs before that. So yeah, I suppose the guts of 8 to 10, I'd say.
Okay. And can you tell us there, PJ? There, can you shed some light on its history and who is managing the castle? But tell us a bit about its history first, if you
You're
can.
really testing me on the history tonight, aren't you?
Well, it does come in hand with old buildings. I don't know.
I thought you were a nice gentleman and a good of friends until tonight. Now you're just no.
Don't like history. Ghost hunt, but don't like history, pal. So, well, a little bit there, you know. Is that it was a built last year, was it?
So it was built around 1210. It was Anglo-Norman. Now there was many prominent families in it.
Mm,
It did change hands, and there was a fire, and it was always a place of. I'm not going to pronounce this right. Notoriety. I can never say that word. Notoriety. I still can't say
okay,
it. But it was always, we'll say, used, we'll say, learning, teaching, that element.
okay.
So, and it was connected to Lackeen as well at one stage. Lackeen is
Oh, oh,
Lackeen,
that Keene Castle, yeah.
and of course, that's only what, about 4 miles?
Mm,
It's only about 4 miles away from it. And it was connected with the same family, and they actually, before Redwood, like anything, yeah, before Redwood was going into disrepair. Because remember, Redwood was initially built with, I think, was it just the 2 floors, but the ground floor had no entry.
Hmm.
Because, of course, if you think back to defending a castle at the time, they would have been going in at the higher level. Okay?
Yes. Yeah. Would
Then
it have
on
been
it,
like a ladder? Would it be something like something they would have used probably like a ladder to get up at a higher level? Would it be something like that?
correct.
Yes.
And then as I think was it the next owners that took it along, they built it up. So the Redwood we see today is a very different. And in fairness, Calissa, who's a direct descendant and does the tours, and she's an Egan herself of the family.
Hmm.
But the most amazing part of it is to get to see the pictures of where it was at before her dad took it on. So
Hmm.
coming forward, the McEgans were always a big part of the castle.
Hmm.
Then, as I say, it was in total disrepair. It had been abandoned. It was a ruin. There was no entry or exit on the ground floors. And a local farmer, along with people, actually cut a big opening for to be able to bring in a horse and cart in there.
Okay.
So that's where one of the access points, even we'll say, began for Redwood Castle. So was it in the 70s? It's in the 70s, I think, that Calissa's dad um, decided to take the castle on and bring it back and he was doing it to make it a family home, but
Hmm.
also to host all the McEgan clans events going forward and to bring it back because there was annals written there as well.
Hmm.
So there was annals written there, and I believe they're housed. Some are still there, and some then are housed in Dublin. So
Hmm.
the history of the castle, yes, it was in fights. Yes, it was. We'll say initially, we'll say 2 story, and then it was lay abandoned because it was involved in a fire as well. And coming back into the McEgan clan, which is where we'll say Calissa's father would have started the rebuild. And the interesting thing is, he got no government funding. He used his own money to bring that castle back.
Hmm.
So if you visit Redwood Castle, the whole history is laid out on the tables for you to see, and you can actually see the pictures of the state of what it was in before you see what you see today.
Hmm.
Uh,
So sorry, go ahead, PJ. So, okay.
yeah, so it is quite amazing to see the work that that man did so quickly with the help of others to bring that castle back to life. Now it does get funding because it's open, I think it's 30 to 60 days a year. So now they do get funding. But again, the fear is these places falling into disrepair, not accessible and gone. So that's why we have to support these places. But as a castle, absolutely amazing. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't say enough about Redwood. And Calissa's father was actually a big part of Order of Malta.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so he was the top. He was one of the top men. I'll say general, but I'll probably get around. Of Order of Malta.
Okay.
Because if you're in Redwood Castle, if you look at the chapel, the
Hmm.
logo on the altar is actually the Order of Malta logo.
Okay.
If you look at the stained glass windows of the chapel, it's the Order of Malta logo that's in the stained glass windows.
Right.
And there's a sculpture of Jesus, the head of Jesus in the chapel, and that was actually brought back from the Holy Land on one of the Order of Malta jets or
Okay.
planes. So there's a huge connection there with him. A knight of the Order of Malta, that's what he was. I was trying to think of it there. A knight of the
Hmm.
Order of Malta. So he was one of the top. So there's a huge connection with Order of Malta and Redwood Castle.
That's interesting. And I know that castle, as you said, it was 1970s there. It was we start the process. I think was it taken by Cromwell or was it? I think was it bombarded first, but then I don't know if it was bombarded. I don't think I'm not too sure.
Like I know there was the Cougans,
Hmm.
and they vacated it at one stage as well. So they were involved in the castle as well. Now that was prior to the McEgans.
Hmm. Yeah, it's yeah. I think it's called some name for that. I think it's a
And it was the O'Kennedys who
hmm.
were based in Lackeen who were also tied in with Redwood as well.
Yes, the
And of course,
Kennedys. You know,
when you say
Kennedys.
when you say Kennedys, of course, you're always going to think of the big American Kennedys.
Yes, I know the word Kennedy means helmet head. That's one thing because I learned it from Lackeen Castle there. But as you said, there were very good scholars there. As you said, like they wrote the books down. I think Lackeen's the same as well. Kennedy's there, and I know the Kennedys sort of had a sort of like they had a sort of a little. I suppose it's survival again. They had a little connection with the English rule at the same time there, like they were sort of what they're trying to keep alive there.
And you see, don't forget the Redwood would have been entertaining, like it would have had with say the chieftains, but it would be entertaining with say the Gaelic chieftains, but it would also have been entertaining English lords. So Redwood was entertaining both aspects.
True.
So even though it had gone through, we'll say, 5 sets of, we'll say, different families, had the fire, had the rebuilds, it was, I can never say the word no tree, I don't even know why I attempt to say it, but it was also serving, we'll say, the Gaelic chieftains and the English lords. So Redwood has quite a mixed history to it.
Eugene says, love Redwood Castle, been there twice, very active both times. Lorraine says, looking forward to our first visit to Redwood next month with you, PJ. That's great, Lorraine.
Lorraine, look forward to it, Lorraine.
I'll be in the car behind you. I'll be in the boot.
You're very welcome.
Not me. I'm joking.
Just come here, bring a camper van and make it easier. Throw the awning.
Joanne says we've been there a few times. The chapel gave us interesting EVPs. Dibs on sleeping near the stove. Is it cold there?
To be fair, when I first started investigating there, like I remember one night investigating there, and one of the ladies, she got a mineral bottle, threw out the mineral, and filled it with hot water, and she used that as a hot water bottle to keep her warm. It was skinning, and I remember that was the dead of winter, but now it's quite comfortable. In the top room, there's a fine big stove, so like we would always use the top as our base. That's where we come and go. So plenty of steps and stairs for up and down throughout the night.
You won't need it when you're up the top going up steps. Like that castle there, you go, geez, you're up the top. Oh, bloody hell, I forgot the camera.
It's like Lep. Do you know the way when you get to the bloody chapel of Lep?
Yeah.
And the steps are so hard, you're goosed.
I find it very difficult. Just because I'm tall, I've got big feet, so I have to go on tippy toes, so I get cramped. Mary says, "Hi, Mary, we're back in time. Always very active anytime with a great spot." Joanne goes on to say there, did Clarissa's dad go bankrupt doing it up?
No, the castle's there, but don't forget the Redwood lay idle for 300 years.
Yeah.
So for about 300 years, that was literally a ruin. But no, Calissa really, I'd say, and as a family, they're collectively keeping it going. And that's why, like I always say, we're non-profit. We make zero, nor do we want it. Everything we do is for passion. But I always say, whatever fee we can get for these guys, absolutely, let's support it and keep it open.
Definitely there. Jonathan says, sounds good. I must give it a visit there. I'll probably ask you there, PJ, at the end there. I'll ask it now. You do paranormal nights quite frequently there. Would you take as well people from the public to come?
So generally, like we do when we do Redwood, you see, as you know yourself, we don't, well, for us personally, because I would never want to obviously dismiss anyone else. For us personally, we only work with small groups. So if we're going to Redwood and we're doing it as a public event, we might allow, we'll say 6 spaces, 5 or 6 spaces, could be 4. And we would put them out to the public. Now, I suppose the one thing is, down through the years, we have people who've become regular guests, or that we contact first. We'd be like, okay, look, we're going to Redwood, you get your first dibs. But always at Halloween, because it's the one time a year people get to celebrate Halloween, we always open it up. So our 2 nights at Halloween, we put them out there, we give our spaces, so they were totally just public and team, but again limited, because I won't sacrifice numbers for what we could lose in an investigation with too many people.
True, yeah. Now we're going to touch a few. Joanne says, sounds good, must give it a visit. Jonathan says, love tonight, learned a lot about my history. There's more to come there, Jonathan, so stay tuned.
I learned a lot about the history, not to mind you.
I'm going to touch on it. So what type of Is there any ghosts, a haunt, or phenomena associated with the castle?
So it's interesting because I always say you can always hear what others have to say. I suppose the great thing with us now is it's funny.
Mm,
Redwood to me, I always call it cat and mouse.
mm,
Always and ever. You'll be downstairs, the noise will happen upstairs. You'll be upstairs, the noise will happen downstairs. They'll set off a trigger alarm in one room. It's like as if it loves playing cat and mouse. But
mm.
the downstairs area inside the front door, so many people, not only our team but others, have seen the activity down there. Like in that area, I remember we had Rebecca. She felt her dress tugged, and we watched the video. You can actually see it being pulled outwards. And Eva, in the same clip, notes how that the room was gone very tense.
Hmm.
Then we'll say in that area as well, when you shut down the lights and you're sitting there in the dark, and you know yourself, Anthony, you're letting your eyes adjust. We
Yeah.
would use a light near the door, and you would actually see the light blacking out as if someone's walking past, but yet there's nobody out there.
Okay.
So, and then you would hear the footsteps because there's two sets of stairs. When you come into Redwood, on your left is a spiral. Then you go through, say, if you go through the second door, there's another stairs to your right, which goes up into, we'll say, the chapel and the main areas. But when you're in the ground floor, you'll often hear the footsteps on the spiral old Simmons stairs. So,
Okay.
like, we would always start there. We always build energy on every floor as we go. Every
Mm,
investigation, we start there, build upwards, and then
mm.
we let the castle lead us. But ground floor, the activity there, not just from us, I know from others. But what I do love is like working, we'll say, with the likes of yourself or groups that we would know. A very interesting one was Ginny, our friend Ginny.
Okay. Jenny from
So
Emerald Isle?
correct.
Yeah.
So we were going there. I think we were there was maybe a week or two after Ginny. I won't lie now, I'm not sure the exact timeline, but she had
Mm,
been there just before us. And
mm.
the priest room had actually been closed off for a while and it was now back open. So she was kind of one of the first back in there. So we actually made a point of don't tell me what you got.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right? So then here we are lobbing in, and we got similar results in the same room, two separate teams, two separate nights. So I
Mm,
love that. I love when you're capturing things that somebody else has and it's similar, but yet very different teams, very different people.
definitely. That is definitely, that's great to do that there, collaborate with other people there. Uh,
Correct.
you know, but
And like
it's
going back to the early, sorry for cutting across you, going back
no,
to
no,
the
yeah.
early times, like
Mm,
even with Redwood, we'll say like that in the ground floor, Rebecca had her dress tugged. In the chapel, one of my earlier experiences with a past team, I remember I knelt down between the two pews because sometimes the chapel can feel young as well as eerie. It has a mix of feelings. And I put out my two hands and I was like, come forward, touch me, give me a tug, whatever they want to do. We had a camera to the side and a camera on the front. And
mm.
sure enough, the t-shirt gets tugged from behind.
Oh wow.
And I have that clip up there as well. You'd have to watch it carefully because obviously, of course, it is night vision. And I remember the time everybody in the room just burst laughing because I was kind of there shaking my hands trying to get their attention. But of course, it is dark. They didn't see me. They were like, "What is your man at over there? Like, can you do some shaky dance?" And they burst out laughing. But I was trying to get their attention of this had just happened.
Mm,
So when
yeah.
we watched it back then, of course, we could see it. So like you've had people where we'll say clothing has been tugged. You've got the EVPs down through the
Mm,
years. There have been phenomenal. Then,
mm,
as I say, you do have the likes of Ginny, and the team at Emerald Isle, where they capture something very similar to what we've captured there. And in fairness, I know we'll say Púca Paranormal have often been there. They've had activity down on the ground floor as well. So it's great that when you have verification from outside your own team as well. And I love when some a guest either they're experiencing something or we've captured something on camera to back it up. But coming back to the order of Malta, I know I'm talking. I'm going to shut up in a minute.
no, no, no. You're
Uh,
right there. You're fine there. Just go carry on, PJ. Perfect.
coming back to the order of Malta, you know yourself, Anthony, as an investigator, you're all the time trying to think,
Mm.
how can I get? We're always left with more questions than answers. Agreed.
Yes, yes.
And then you're always thinking, how can I get more engagement? How can I push this forward? And I do
Mm,
feel because we go to Redwood so much, it is nearly like they're used to us. They're opening a bit more with us.
Mm.
But the last time we were there, I did bring the motion ball, and I think I shared the clip. So in the priest room, we had a trigger alarm, we had the motion ball. But the funny thing is, I had it placed on an Order Malta medal.
Okay.
I secured a papal Order Malta medal for the night.
Okay.
So I went, okay, if this place is tied in with such a feeling of this, and I showed it to Calissa before the start of the investigation, just to give her a bit of a feeling for it as well. And it was interesting. The team and the guests, we were outside on the stairs, and as we would ask the questions, the ball was being lit to answers as we were doing the session. So we remained outside the room. So trigger
Mm.
alarm went off to bring us in. We remained outside, had the use of the medal with a motionless ball on top, and as we were doing our questions, it was reacting to certain questions. And the great thing was for everyone to be in the one area outside the room at the time, because like you've had the last investigation we did there, and I think I
Mm.
shared that one as well. The doors were actually being pushed as if they were trying to be open. It was, do you know when you catch a handle of a door and you
Yeah.
start rattling it?
So it was trying to open from the inside or the outside? Well, I mean,
We
from the inside, was it?
I think it was trying to open it from the outside in, but
Okay.
it's hard to call. I can't call it, but it was when I was watching back the footage and it was loud, and I was like, "Yo,
Mm.
here we go," do you know. But that same night we had a lot of activity, and that's the thing I always say: you can never. They're not performing monkeys. You can never gauge what's going to happen, but you'll definitely know your hot spots.
Mm. Correct me if I'm right. So the motion went off, and did you go into the room or did you stay out of it?
We stayed outside. We left the
It's
door
interesting.
open because it
Yeah.
was in the dark, and of course they light up with color, so we could
Mm.
see it in the dark. So we all stayed in the stairs area because on the same investigation, and it's the first time this happened, is the wall of the chapel to the stairs outside. We would often hear footsteps on those stairs,
Mm.
but you'd never really capture them on the camera. I could hear them, but for me, listening to footage for so many years, I could hear them. But if I got it to play for somebody else, they wouldn't hear it. And they actually got a knock on the wall from the outside in. So there
Mm.
was two of the guests. There was Eva and Veronica. And while they were in there, there was actually a knock on the wall on the outside the stairs area because it's a fake wall.
Mm. Okay.
And when
Well,
there was during it, then they clicked that the knock was on the wall. But there's been so many things I could go on and on about Redwood.
that's interesting. No, I'm just saying, like, no, I'm not saying, you just put something just come into my head, like you just. I might start putting fake walls up in a building. See if,
You're
see
never
if you
going
get
building on the back of it. You're never going to build a castle.
just put those walls. You come the next day, the owner, what are these bloody walls? Anyway, but it's interesting. Experiments, as you said earlier, there you think of something trying to progress it there, like, but that's very interesting. Joanne says there is one room in the castle Calissa never really lets anyone into, supposedly something to do with a priest. Now, before we touch upon that, I just said it's great what you did there with a proper investigator, where you didn't intrude in the area straight away, you stayed
Yeah.
outside the door. Very interesting. Uh, what about that? Is it haunted by a priest?
Well, I suppose if the who asked the question was there's the room that I'm talking about is actually called the priest's room. It
Okay,
was locked for quite a long time. It's now open. I wonder, is
okay.
that the room that they're talking about?
Um, I, I, if you could just clarify that, Joanne, yeah, if you can just,
Could
she
you ask
go,
Joanne, is it the priest's room that she's talking about?
okay, she goes on to say, I slept just inside the front door on two chairs in twice during the night. I heard footsteps walking around me. I had to tell them to back away. I was definitely the only live person down there.
Well, and you see, footsteps are very common there, like footsteps on the stairs, both stairs. When you're on the ground floor, the white stairs, as you come in the door to the left, you would just hear them there when you're doing any sessions, usually in the ground floor. And
Mm.
then when you're up around the chapel area, again, you'd have steps there. But like if I was to take it floor by floor, so ground floor, we've actually had, I've had the clip, we'll say I used a car and the car was actually moved on camera down there.
Mm.
We've had we did a very interesting experiment down there. It never happened for the second time. We used battery operated lights,
Mm.
and we were trying to get the lighting to go from we would ask that they dim the lights of one set and make the other set stronger for our answers.
Okay.
And it only ever worked for us once, but it was quite intuitive on the night. And that was the same night that the car actually moved. So you've had somebody's clothing being touched down there. You've seen the shadow footsteps. You have seen spirit lights down there. The footsteps were heard in the hallway out there. And then you've had trigger objects move down there. And that's just that entry level alone there.
Mm. It's
Then you move
sorry,
up the you move up the stairs, you've got the priest room, and there again you've had EVP, you've had the trigger alarm set off, you've had the motion sensor balls set off, and you've had light anomalies. And then, of course, the doors as if they're being forced open. Now, bear in mind, not everything happens on one night. For anybody watching that
God,
thinks they're going
that's
to
a
go
lot
there,
of 2 minutes.
it's crazy. This is like extreme. I always say, if you don't have patience, don't go ghost hunting, because this could take 5 minutes out of 50 hours. Um, the chapel again, you've got clothing touched, you've got shadows. Actually, on the last investigation, our guest Alan, now this man has been on several investigations. I know these two people, I suppose, going back the guts of over 10 years. I've never seen him spooked until our last investigation in Redwood. And he was down in the room with Eva, Veronica, when they got the knocks and so forth. But he actually seen a full shadow like come lunge through the door.
Oh, yeah.
So, and which was interesting because we were doing a live, I think it was earlier or after, I'd have to go back and watch, on the banqueting room above. And I actually got a bit of a hop at the start of the live because I thought somebody had just come up the stairs at me. So we both had similar experiences, but two separate times, two separate parts of the castle. Then, of course, if we look at the banqueting, and you've had light anomalies, you've had objects moved, you've had motion sensor in the chapel. Then, as I say, the stairs, you've had the footsteps and the first time a knock on the last investigation. Then the banqueting hall. Have you ever seen the raining lights?
Rain and
Like,
lights. Yeah.
do you know, the light anomalies where it's like raining lights down.
Oh, yeah, like straight diagonal, like sort of going across. Yeah.
Correct. And it's interesting. You'll get something, you might never get it again, or you might get it for years. So in the banqueting hall, we've had trigger objects knocked. And actually, we have often secured a brush to the middle of the floor up there. And we would do it and we'd mark it and lay out the ground. And on a couple of investigations, my God, it would be there all night and all of a sudden it goes with a bang.
Oh,
And
wow.
it echoes through there. But then there was also a night, we had the tables in the center of the banqueting hall. We had, like the push bell like you'd have in a chapel.
Yes, yes.
And while we were all around the table, and these tables now would be like double width of a trestle table. They're quite large. It's not like as if you could cross over with your arm into the center of it. But yet the bell was touched.
Okay.
With everybody standing around, but nobody actually at it. Then, of course, we've had motion sensors, we've had temperature change, so we've had so much again in the Great Hall, and that's before you ever even count in the new activity of the shadows from the next stage, and that's where you even go up another floor.
I was going to say, yeah, got out for another. Out of those experiences there, roughly, just give us a rough estimate. Say, would you have said you've done night times there, say, between 50 and 100 or 100
How many?
or
Sorry,
more?
I missed the start of the question.
You say you've done about 50 between. Would you have done less than 50 or more than 50?
Investigations?
Yeah, sort of nights or just nights there.
In Redwood, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, let me think now. I would say I'm not far off 50.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, that's interesting with the amount of stuff that's happening, and Pete, I'm just going to come to more of the questions about what people are saying there because it's fascinating there. Eugene, Agnes says, tell us more. Definitely, we'll carry on talking there. Definitely, Agnes. Eugene says, have you heard music there? We thought we heard minstrel style music.
Yes, in the banqueting hall we heard music, and don't forget that twice there's been a lady heard singing.
Okay.
And what we did, we tried something different. That lady I mentioned that actually had her dress tugged, Rebecca McRedmond, she's actually a musician. She's a singer up in Galway. We actually brought her down because you know yourself, building energy is about using laughter, trying to raise the energy to the highest you can. we actually decided on an experiment to actually bring a musician with music on the back of that person's question because of the banqueting hall and because of music. And we got Rebecca to play in different parts of the castle to see if it would react and drive energy. And an interesting one was when she sang Grace in the Chapel.
Right. Yeah.
So it was something new, it was something different, but she certainly added her worth to the investigation. And we just went, but we sometimes you might play something, but we said this time let's bring it. And she had I can't think of the man's name that was with her, so there was times there was two of them together playing.
But it is interesting, like in seances in the past, they did use hymns, like mass hymns at the beginning of seances to attract the entities to come forward there. And it's an interesting point. Like music it's amazing. Like you start singing there, and you can. I think I've been in one investigation there, and you start singing, and you can hear this afterwards. And it's not to do with our sound vibration afterwards. It's a different tone of sound that's coming from somewhere else. It's unbelievable what song and singing can do. I think Bridget is confirming that was the chapel. Wait, I saw it. That was the room. Was it the priest room?
The priest room is to the. If you were standing at the chapel door, it's to the left.
Paul says, "Hi team, hi Paul, how you doing?" Leo, don't know who Leo is. Do you know Leo there, PJ?
Maybe I know that scamp.
Scamp, naughty fella. He says, "Hi."
He's never too old for a slap.
He's in the back room there. I'll never forget about motion sensor going off. Obviously, so Leo was there that evening as well. There, and that would have been so. It's great how as you said there, you left whatever was in there and called out from the outside. Was it you called out from the outside?
Yeah, from the outside wall there was a knock in, but like what I really love is when you do have the cameras on and you have when you have something in clear view that there is no one near or touching or next or equipment, and next thing it's been manipulated right in front of your eyes, like that's phenomenal. And as I say, like even though I've been to Redwood and the team, like the full Púca Vogue team all the time, there's never been one investigation it hasn't left us down. It does feel like it goes more because we keep going, but I don't want to harm the expectation for people that haven't been there, because I do say everything I say happened over all these investigations. It didn't just all happen in one night. But in saying that, if you think of the live the last time, I was on the live, literally I could swear to Anthony that someone literally just put their hands straight out towards, we'll say, as if going to stab just at the top of the stairs.
Right.
And I took a land and did I remember, hang on a minute, we're in the middle of a live here, do you know what I mean? But and it was interesting the way it tied in then with, we'll say with Alan when he was down below in the chapel. So it's interesting the things they do. And actually a very good one was we were doing a live, I think it was around February or March.
Okay.
And we were doing the live. So you know yourself, sometimes you'll do the whistle and ask for a whistle back. So everybody that was present in the castle that night, and there was guests with us, were in the banqueting hall. We were doing the live. I can't whistle. My whistle is crap. So and it's brutal, it's crap. So I usually get Leo or Rory, and I'm like, can one of you whistle? But it's shocking. So I'd say to them, can somebody whistle? So I can't remember, to be fair, which one whistled.
You'd be a shit ghost there, like Peter.
Come here. They'd be still waiting. If I was at a bar ordering a drink, no, that should be faster. But like they did the whistle, and while we were standing in the room on the live, a whistle came straight back from downstairs, from those stairs where the chapel is in the priest's room. The whistle echoed back up.
Okay.
And the interesting thing was people watching actually started commenting, we just heard the whistle. So not only did we get to experience it, and it was a different tone, totally different sound. It was later on, so it went like as if it was a bounce of, we'll say, echo. Right. But the interesting part was not alone had we just experienced it, but the people watching got to experience it as well.
Yeah.
And I know it's only something small, but when you are working with paranormal, it's every small thing adds up, which again leads to more questions than answers.
True, and it builds up the energy. People ask what the energy is. I don't know what the energy is, but I think it's to build up the contact, keep on bringing it being at the any. I'm just
Well,
saying, but yeah, go ahead, PJ.
I always say, right? So because laughter is the one thing I do. That's why I keep the group small. I want people to be comfortable. I want them to feel okay. Yes, it's serious. We're doing investigations, but as you know, you have to laugh as well because you need patience. It's a long night. But energy is definitely the biggest thing about it. My apologies, my dog is trying to get his head in there.
It's all right, Kobe.
You know, so like energy is the biggest draw of the whole lot of it. I lost my trail of thought with him jumping up there. And that's what I would say. How many times are you going to EVP the back of laughter? How many times are you going to EVP when you're doing normal talking? And that's why it's so important for energy that energy has to be raised.
I was going to say, if you got any more questions for PJ, put them forward there. I'm going to ask this question about Redwood there. My last question about, is there any energy, not energy, emotions different on one room to another? Is it positive or negative in some areas?
It can change. I find with the castle, and this was, I suppose, the point I was coming to, but I got sidetracked with my dog, is if I kept going to your house, Anthony, right? So we'll just say now, if you think of a friendship with anyone, you start becoming friends. The more time you spend with them, the more comfortable you get around them, correct?
True, yes.
The more you go to their home, the more comfortable you get in their home. So then if you think about Redwood, you're going back, we'll say 40 to 50 times. So they should be way more comfortable with us now than they've ever been. That's how I think of, I often think of it, of strip it back as if the person is living and they're alive with you today.
Yes.
But coming back to the feelings, like what I find is, as I say, you could be doing a session in the priest room, we'll say, and it could feel heavy. You could feel like, hang on, there's a bad energy, because we have had experiences where we would say, do you want us to leave this room? Just leave the castle. We've had those moments. I can't say we didn't. But then you would have the moments where you go in and it's like you're starting to investigate, you're calling out, but you're like, it's flat. It's just flat. So, like, as I say, the chapel sometimes can be very playful.
Yeah.
So I find the chapel probably lighter more so than anywhere else. The ground floor can feel quite heavy at times, and even in that clip, she even notes that it's gone tense. The Great Hall would have a mix, and the priest room is definitely, it wouldn't be the lightest of rooms.
Right.
And then, of course, you have the top floor, which I don't know, is it because it's so comfortable as a base room? I've never got a massive amount out of the top room, but we would do mirror scrying up there at the end. So we would use as our base room night, we would use mirror scrying, and I have tried going, there's 2 balconies up there as well at the very top, opposite ends. So we have tried experiments of talking on one side to see will it come back on the other side. And some people have had great success with that up there. But so far for us, that's still the weakest part. Now, in saying that, I did take, I use an Instax, because I like an Instax because, of course, you can't, as you know, manipulate it and digitally afterwards. And
It's a
there's
type of camera, isn't it?
Yeah. So it takes the pictures there and then. So there's a spiral stairs in the top room, and you know the way the spiral stairs, you can see through the steps. And took 2 pictures in a row, and you could see a black increasing on the steps. It was actually blocking out the spacing between the steps. Second picture, it blocked it out more. Third picture, gone.
Wow. You couldn't see anything that was completely black, or was it gone?
Gone as in the black had gone. But you could see it in picture 1, then it increased in picture 2, and then it was gone for a third picture. Same, there's 10 pictures in every batch. No issue with the picture prior, no issue with the pictures after.
It's interesting as you're touching upon there as well. I suppose, as you said, you work up that kind of bond and all that, Would it come, I don't know, you get so comfortable, though, at the end that you don't say anything like a family member. Do you get what I mean? I mean, like, you mean some rooms you get so comfortable with that person there, you don't actually talk. Do you reckon that could be something that
No,
might
because
happen?
it's always different.
Yes.
It's funny. Redwood, it's like, while you might have similarities, overall investigation, it's always different.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what I'm saying, like, the raining lights never happened again. The pushing and shoving of the door hasn't happened a second time. Then we'll say EVPs, they're often there. Items moving, trigger alarm. So it's interesting that it always feels different, but I would have to say it's a place that plays cat and mouse with you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
It's. Do you know what I would say? If you were doing LEP now and you're up in the bloody chapel, you're working in the
Yes.
chapel, you're not really drawn to anywhere else.
Yes.
But in Redwood, they will actually draw you to different areas.
Okay. All right.
And that's
Yeah.
why I say I like even will say I think was it Lorraine who said was on that she's coming with us for Halloween. I've never met her, it's her first time. But
Mm.
I always say that's why you have to let the building lead you.
Mm.
It would
Yes.
be unfair for me as an investigator to go in and go, this is the plan for the night and this is what we're doing. Yes, you'll
Mm.
start with your usual start and core and build, but you have to, for me, my own belief is
Mm.
I let the building lead me.
Definitely. It's a great thing, and it'd be great. It'd be looking forward to that there, Lorraine. It'd be great. PJ's got a great group there. Bridget says you have to laugh, plenty of energy. That's true, and she
Yeah.
says love Redwood there. So we're going to do the competition. We're going to see if PJ's right. We're going to see if oh my god, here it goes. We're looking for the passive monk, and it's Hugh, PJ, you picked orange.
Correct.
Joanne and Eva, you picked blue, and Agnes picked green. Are you lucky? Let's see. Here we go. Looking for the pass. Draw on the 30th of October. Please don't be red. Come on. Oh no! Oh my God! Almighty! Oh no! Will he come out the butt? God, he's very passive, isn't he? Yeah, that's
What color was it?
Red. Red. You know. Okay, I'm sorry there, folks. I don't know anything about this. I haven't watched that video, but anything could happen on that video.
Yeah, this is like being in Vegas. You're just gonna lose, and that's it.
You just don't know. But PJ, so what have you got coming up in the future? As you said, we got
So
red.
we've Tarbert on with Tarbert this month. We're back in
Oh,
Tarbert Bridewell on
wow.
is it the 20th or 28th? I think it's the 20th. We're back in Tarbert this month. So
Hmm.
that's September. Then we have our 2 nights for Halloween, and we usually break then until after Christmas. Just give people a chance. Plus, we still have about 100 hours worth of footage from Halloween to go through.
Yeah,
So,
that's the other bit of it, isn't it? Like, but
and
it's good as well when you get something like.
right, so like that's the plan for now. The plan for now is, as I say, we've Tarbert booked. Then we've got the 2 nights in Redwood, and then we're going to start off the year. We're hopefully going to start back with Wicklow Jail.
Oh, is it? Is it? Oh, I remember you now, Agnes. Agnes, you're from Tarbert. There, sorry, Agnes. Hi, Agnes. How you doing there?
Oh, hang
I
on. Now it's just clicked to me, Agnes. Yes, it's just
Yes,
clicked as well.
sorry, Agnes. There, I remember you from Tarbert. Yes, sorry, Agnes. There, yeah.
So
Oh, yes.
how could we forget who Agnes is now? Now the penny is dropped.
Hello. Where are you tonight? Why are you joking? You've been here all night. Sorry, no, my eyes are very bad. So I'm very well away from the camera
And
there.
actually, Agnes was there. She was with us the night of the last night in Tarbert, and oh my God, Tarbert just kicked off. It just kicked off. It was so different from my previous investigation there. Like there was literally touching EVPs from the word go, and you could hear on the spot up there. So Agnes, I'm sure, slept well.
It is an amazing spot as well. We've got something coming up with PJ project we did with PJ, and it will be revealed soon. There more of it. Well, it's been revealed. There we've got a show, Phantasm Collective, coming out there, which will be on streaming channels soon. Well, if you've seen a few articles, you may know where it's going to possibly, but we'll go forward in the next few weeks, and probably hopefully we aired soon as well there. So that's a project we did with PJ as well.
And to be fair, we were privileged to be a part of it with you and the GhostÉire team. Do you know what I mean? So we do thank you for being part of the experience as well.
And it's a privilege as well to have you on as well there, PJ.
My dog really wants to get in on the act.
I just says, finally, we got your name. That's it. Finally. Jonathan says, if you're anywhere near Fermanagh, yeah, County, I don't know if that's still there. As you mentioned, Jonathan, before there, all I can think of is Castle Leslie there as well. I think that's Fermanagh. It's a place that actually the county haven't been investigated in yet. Have you investigated there, PJ? County Fermanagh?
No, I was just thinking we'll have to get 2 camper vans and hit the road.
Hey, everyone that's listening, you can come and join us there. You know, Are you? I meant, are you? Are you? If you are, yeah, if you are going anywhere. Hi, Seeker. How you doing? Hi, guys. How you doing, Seeker? Hope you enjoyed the evening, the fine weekend. Well, I think that's it, folks. Oh, yeah, I only got to say that on the next show, we've got Emma Houlihan from Ghostcatcher Isles. She'll be coming on the show. This is going to be around mid-October because we're having a bit of break for a few weeks there. But PJ, really, thank you for being on tonight.
Not at all. It was great to catch up and have the chat. And look, everyone that joined, all I can say is thank you for tuning in as well.
No worries, it's been beautiful, amazing there. I will put you both up. I will put you both up. But we need to come down afterwards then as well, Jonathan. Anyway, that's it, folks. Have a great weekend. I won't see you next time. I'll see you in the near distance. Bye-bye for now. You're still waving, PJ. I'm pressed stop.
I thought it just froze.